Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Fertility Podcast, the place where we dive deep into all things fertility. I'm Dr. Brenna Squires, a clinical psychologist and fertility support coach, here to bring you the knowledge, resources, and expert insights you need to feel confident along your journey to parenthood. So let's get started. Did you know your genes could hold clues about your fertility? Our DNA influences everything from how we process hormones to how our bodies respond to treatment. But most people never look deeper than the basic lab work. One powerful way to unlock these hidden insights is through genomic testing. And that's exactly what we're going to explore today. But before we do that, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you never miss an episode. I release new videos every Wednesday to help you improve your health, your hormones, and your fertility. And please share this channel with someone you know who is on their trying to conceive journey. I am so excited about today's topic because it's something that I am not familiar with at all. So I'm really excited to speak to an expert on this. I am speaking to Dr. Carmel Wiseman. She is a doctor of chiropractic and functional medicine practitioner who has over 2 decades of experience. One thing she is passionate about is using genetic testing to find hidden causes of infertility. And today, Dr. Carmel will share how understanding your unique genetics can unlock possibilities for our fertility and our wellness. So welcome, Dr. Carmel.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you. I love your podcast.
Oh, thank you.
By the way.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited that you're here. And I'm so excited to hear your take on this type of testing. But before we do that, what got you interested in genetic testing in the first place?
General, when I first started this journey of helping others to be able to conceive naturally, to create healthy kids, I was on the lookout for anything that would make a difference. And I think just my nature is that I really like to look at any kind of issue or problem that I'm trying to solve and look at it very broadly and look at all the different possibilities of what could be impacting or what could be blocking women from getting pregnant. And so when I came across this test, I was so excited. I was like, this is the best thing I've heard of. This is like the best idea. Like, let's use our genetics, the ones that we can alter with lifestyle changes, nutrition, supplements, exercise, stress reduction. Let's look at these and let's change them before a woman ever gets pregnant or when she's just gotten pregnant. And to be able to alter the course of her fertility journey, her pregnancy, and ultimately the health of her children, it's like, to me, that's the most exciting thing. I know I'm a fertility nerd, but to me, that's the most exciting thing.
Yes, it's so exciting. I mean, like you just said, something that I didn't really hear about until recently, that we can actually change the way that our genes are expressed.
Yes.
That is so fascinating. It's so neat. And I'm so excited to learn more about that. And you said that you started looking into this because you were just trying to uncover different barriers. And what made you even look at genetics in the first place? Because that's not something common that people look at. They might look at gut or mold or heavy metals, which are kind of outliers, but not many people say, genetics. What made you go there?
I think, looking back to when I did my functional medicine training, before I ever did the functional medicine training, I also had no idea that you could test and to get insights and to really shift how the genes are expressing. And in my functional medicine training, I was introduced to this company who does a wide variety of nutrigenomic testing, whether they have one that's specifically for the mind, one that's for estrogen, just looking at the different, one for skin health. And so when they said that they're about to release a test, which is called Grow Baby, which is all about preconception, pregnancy, postpartum, and child health, I was just, I was drawn to it. I was probably one of the first few people that contacted them and said, when you release this, I need this, like the day that you release this, because the
Yes.
potential for this is so, so fabulous, and so impactful for so many couples to know, who have been told, oh, you have unexplained infertility. You say, nope, you just haven't investigated it enough, right?
Yes.
And this is one way to investigate it.
Yes, that's awesome. And I'm so glad to hear that you had this experience while you were learning, because one thing I talk about on this podcast is that every doctor has different recommendations, they have different treatment options, they have different ways of looking at things, and a lot of it has to do with their background experience, what they have learned, but also what they're willing to dive into. And not many people have either the background experience or the willingness to dive into genetics. And so it's interesting to hear that you say that you learned this way back when, that this was something that was coming out. And so it's great to hear that that education is out there, that they're sharing that genetics is a
Yes.
potential barrier and a potential treatment option.
Yeah, and really, to clarify, it's not that the genetics are the barrier. It's that, it's that we have, this whole genome and all these genes, and some of them we can't alter. I want to be clear about that. Like, there are conditions like cystic fibrosis. These are not the same type of genes. These are a different type of gene. So these are alterable, and but by knowing what we have,
Hmm.
we can take actions, which is right in line with your podcast, right? The empowered fertility. So we can empower our fertility, because instead of saying, and to me, when I think of fertility and I think about 100 different things that could be the barriers or the issues, it helps us to just take it down and be like, okay, this is, yeah, there's 100 things you could look at, but here are the really top four or maybe five things that could be impacting um, you know, your health and your ability to get pregnant. So
Yes, and thank you for clarifying that. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, I don't know much about this, and that's why I'm so excited to talk to you. And when you said that you can narrow down to a couple of different things, are you referring to for that individual specifically, that you could narrow it down to what's going on with that individual, or just
yes,
in general?
well, I think if I understand what you're saying, yes, for that person, because we look at what genet what do their genes look like, right? And so let's say for me, I may have uh, let's say variants in the methylation genes that impact the way my body is creating DNA and how it's repairing the cells, versus somebody else who may have inflammation as their top. So, what it does is it gives, in the report, it does give the top four or five areas. They do rank them in severity. So, like the most impacted, and then medium impact, and then the lowest impact. There are also some genes that confer benefit. Those particular variants will confer benefit in terms of health outcomes. So, yeah, so it is really specific to each person, and nobody's report is going to look exactly alike, right?
Yes, and that's
Especially,
exactly the question I was asking. Yes,
yeah,
perfect. That's perfect. So each person, it's very tailored to that particular person. And like how you said that for one person, it might be methylation, but for another person, it might be inflammation. And that allows you to really tailor their treatment
yes,
at a very deep level, because you're going down
yes.
to genes.
Right. There's no guessing here, because we know, okay, or your vitamin D receptor just is not working as well. So we really need to make sure that you're getting enough sun, that you're getting enough supplementation, or the same thing could be about the B vitamins, or it could be, when it comes to risk factors for preterm birth, or gestational diabetes, or preeclampsia. There are so many, there's about 11 different biological processes that we can get insight on. So instead of saying you got to take actions in 11 of those, no, really you're going to have a lot of impact just from taking action in 4 or 5 areas that are the most important.
Wow, I mean, for someone who's been on a trying to conceive journey for many years, that sounds great because so many times doctors say, change your diet, change your exercise, take these supplements, take this testing, do this medication, do X, Y, and Z. And it can be overwhelming if you're focusing on all 11 things.
Yes. Yes, I agree. I agree. And I get it because I've been there.
Yes.
Been there and I did everything. I was, I need to get the toxins out of my body. I had silver amalgams in my teeth. It's like what do you do first? What do you do second?
Yeah.
So you're not only limited in resources in terms of time, but money and right, but you're somewhat on a time. We don't want to talk about this sometimes because we don't want to stress about it. But you are like, we do have a window. In my case, my window closed and I was not successful in conceiving a child. But I did figure out with the use of functional medicine, why am I keep having miscarriages? Why is this not working when I seem to be healthy otherwise? So we do want to be really aware and conscientious of time and money and um, bandwidth.
Yeah, use our time and our money wisely. So we're not just
Right.
throwing money to the wind and we're not just waiting and wasting time because a lot of times that's what happens with physicians. Well, they'll say, "Well, you need to wait 6 to 12 months for this step and then 6 to 12 months for this step and 12 months for this step." And then 5 years later, you can finally achieve this next treatment protocol, but it just kind of feels very overwhelming. And so I love this idea that you can just get right to what's important for you specifically. And with that, are there more than one is there more than one test that does this, or is this just a singular test?
So this is a singular test because it's genetics. You only have to ever test once. So you don't have to repeat it. It's going to be the same.
Nice.
I know it's like the one test in functional medicine where it's like this is not changing. Now, what I'll tell you is that there are a lot of nutrigenomic tests out there. This one is unique in that all the research and all the markers are specifically identified as having a correlation to outcomes in fertility, pregnancy, even postpartum health and the future child's health. So they're very heavily researched. They're constantly doing more research, so they may add more markers to it over time. I think recently they added another 2 markers, but they won't add it unless there's a very strong correlation between the outcomes. And then we know what the lifestyle changes are to optimize that. So that's the easy part. But it blew me away when I realized how much research there is out there on how our genetics can be impacted and how they impact our fertility. So I love this stuff.
That's so nice, and that's good that you said that this particular test is specifically for fertility, or it's
Yes.
not necessarily specifically for fertility, but it has a lot of research on fertility because yes,
Yes.
there are a lot of different types of genetic testing, but they could be for a number of different things. And when we're talking about fertility, we want as close to what we're going for as possible, right? So that since this has so much research on fertility, this is probably the best test for us.
I believe so. And this test is only for women. Okay. I like to test the men. I don't always do that, but I like to test them and I use a different test that's more
Okay.
generalized just to help them because I want to optimize their health. So if they're having issues with their vitamin D receptors, I want to know that too, because that's also going to impact their immunity and their fertility. And so, but this is not the test for them.
Yeah,
We have other
what's
tests
the
for
name for the man?
what's that?
What's the name or the ones you use for men?
Oh, well, there's a number of them out there. I specifically use 3x4 genetics for the guys. because that's a good general overview of many areas of health. And I love their reports too. I think their reports are fabulous. I was like, I wish y'all were doing the graphics for the Grow Baby test. They're just so fabulous. But anyway,
Yes,
you'll have to look at that.
I will.
Yeah, 3x for genetics. Yeah.
And before we get into talking about the test specifically for women that we're going to go into a little bit more today, can you share a little bit about the research on genetics and fertility?
Interesting. The research. Tell me a little bit more about what you mean, like like the specific markers.
Yeah, anything. You had just mentioned that there's a lot of research that connects genetics to fertility. And I was just wondering anything that you can share on that that would be insightful for our listeners.
Okay, let me think of so we know, for example, I mentioned the vitamin D, how crucial that is for conception, right? So some people will be told you need to take, how many ever international units of vitamin D, and this is just the standard. And yeah, we'll measure your vitamin D. But then what does your body do with all that vitamin D? Is it able to pull it into the cells? Well, we don't know. Does it have an impairment? And with the receptors that have to transport the vitamin into the cells where they need to work? Or are they able to um, do that with no problem? You don't have a variant that would impact your body's ability to do that, right? So that's one of the ones that's related to fertility. Another one is inflammation. We know that pregnancy causes a mild inflammatory state. And if you have genetic variants that predispose you to be already more living within a more inflamed state, and then on top of that, you get pregnant, that may be one of the causes of why you're having more miscarriages rather than being able to carry that. And so it's great to know these things. When these genetic tests came out, people were like, oh, I don't want to know my genetics. That's too scary. It's actually not. It's great news because we can do something about it. For example, if we go with the inflammation, with those genetic variants, if you're somebody who is just naturally more inflamed, great, then we can take steps to reduce the inflammation in your body. Let's take 3-4 months, work on that. Anti-inflammatory, natural anti-inflammatories, not the prescription ones. Look at what could be also contributing to, like you mentioned, mold before. Mold inflames you, right? So really looking at all the things that we can impact. And between our toxin exposure, the food we're eating, are you eating foods that are leading to inflammation, chronic inflammation within the body? So we can take those actions. I think those are two really important ones that are
Yeah.
related to fertility.
Yeah.
And there may be more, but I may have to get back to you on those because I right now what's in my brain is the ones that are related to pregnancy outcomes.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing those two. I was very unfamiliar with the one with D. Like you said, we know we're supposed to have a certain level, but what do you do past that? And so thank you for sharing that information. And let's go into this particular test. Can you share about the test that you were talking about, the Grow Baby test, and what that's all about?
Sure, absolutely. So it's a really easy test. It's non-invasive. All you either do a cheek swab, so it's like a little Q-tip, and you rub the inside of your cheeks, and you put it into a little tube, and you send it off, and it goes to Europe, and they analyze it, and you get your report. And then um, the other option, sometimes if people don't rub hard enough, they'll have people do a fingerprint test, like a blood spot test. I personally, I will admit this on camera, I am such a weenie when it comes to like pricking my finger. I cannot be a diabetic. I would be a terrible diabetic because I hate pricking my finger.
Me too. It hurts so much.
It does. I would rather have my blood, drawn from
Me
that
too.
doesn't hurt me at all.
No.
I don't know if it's because as chiropractors we really develop sensitivity in our fingers. So I think more nerve things. I don't know what, or I'm just a baby about it, but it does. It really hurts a lot, and it hurts for like at least a day or two afterwards.
I
You
was
do?
just thinking that with the
Okay,
when you
good.
take the blood from your arm, I think it hurts for
Yes,
maybe like 30 minutes, but my finger will hurt for days.
yes, me too. So yeah, that was just me.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm in good company then. So they like to encourage people to do the blood spot, and I said to them, I said, I'm going to get some of those kits of the swabs, and they said, but you have to have people swab really hard enough because you got to get the genetic material off your cheek cells. If they're just kind of rubbing a little bit, it's not going to cut it. You really have to get in there and avoid the teeth because those have things.
Dig.
Yeah,
Like
dig into that cheek, and then so then you get the results, and they go into a lot of detail. One of the things I've developed to help people implement the results of it is when my patients do this test, they go through um, let's say a recorded seminar and they get a worksheet where they can take their top 4 results and listen to the different narratives about each one of the areas, right? And
nice.
then they write down for themselves like, hey, what action am I going to take on? What is at least one action I'm going to take on to upgrade the expression of this gene? And some of the areas that they look at, and there's 11 biological areas. We'll see if I can remember all 11 by heart. So there's inflammation, there's hormone control, there's vitamin D, methylation. People hear a lot about methylation, right? MTH, FR, that's just one of them. They look at many, many genes that are related to that. Detoxification, phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification, which is also a really crucial one for fertility because um, if your phase 1 is backed up or there's just it's happening too fast and phase 2 can't keep up with it, then you've got a lot of circulating toxins in your body, and that's going to make it very difficult to get pregnant. So detoxification. We have sugar control or insulin sensitivity, and then there's lipid metabolism. That's you need to have cholesterol and healthy fats in order to build the cells when you're creating a new human being, and to get pregnant you got to make the correct amounts and proportions and ratios of hormones. So lipid metabolism is a really crucial one. And then there's cell signaling. So that's really control and development of the brain. There's also melatonin metabolism, which is related to melatonin is very, very tied in fertility. You've probably heard about that before, and some of your other guests probably talked about the importance of melatonin for fertility and sleep. And so there can be different variants of those genes that are related to melatonin and sleep. So um, we can make lifestyle changes. And did I give you all of them? There's a few of them that are related to neurological development, cell signaling, um, neurotrophic pathways. So there's the detoxification is broken up into 1 and 2. So there you go. So there's I got them all. So those are the areas.
And and can you break down detox phase 1 and detox phase 2? I don't think I know the difference.
Yeah, so let's see. Let me think about how I can do that in a really simple way. Gosh, I wish we could just like pull in a little diagram. But basically, they do different things, and depending on what you're, and it requires different genes and different enzymes. So let me see if I can think of an analogy. If you have a road, right, and it goes into a 2-lane road and it goes into a 1-lane road, um, That is likened to if you have the first phase of detoxification, let's say it's of estrogens, right? That's one of the things, or it could be toxins in the environment where we break them down. And then if the part that happens first in the phase one detoxification, what it does is it creates really toxic byproducts. And if phase two is not optimized because some of those genes just aren't as, the variant aren't as robust as they could be, then it's like going from 2 lanes into 1 lane. And so everything gets bottled up. And some of those toxins that are created as a product of the first phase of detoxification will recirculate into the body. So it is important to break those two phases up because we want to know, are they both working optimally? Is one working not as well as the other? Do we need to support one but not the other? So it's really
Interesting.
useful to be able to break those two down. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, it's interesting. Are they in different parts of the body, or
No,
it's just like, again, step 1 and step 2?
yeah, it's step one and step two,
Okay.
and it requires different things to make the reaction go.
Gotcha.
And what they are enzymes. Enzymes are created by the genes, right?
Okay.
So if let's say uh, one of your genes is a variant that slows down the production of the enzyme in phase one detoxification, that slows it down. Okay, well, we're not as concerned. But if in phase two we're slowing down, so we're detoxifying toxins really, really fast, and then we get to the product and phase two is kind of sluggish, then that's when we have the issue. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for clarifying that because I was a little confused. I wasn't sure if they were in different parts of the body or if it was just like an order of things happening. But the way that you explained it makes a lot of sense with that. It's the process and the order of it happening, and we have different mechanisms for each of them. Is that right?
Speed, yeah, they have to be coordinated. So if one is not working as well as the other one, then we do support that. There is also a phase three
Mm,
of detoxification, which is how it gets those toxins get excreted through, out of the body through the urine or the feces. But that is not look. That's not something that is tested in this. It's just phase one and phase two.
yeah, that makes sense. And then with this test, is this something that is covered by insurance or is it self pay?
This is self pay. My hope, my my commitment is that insurance companies, they often, oh, we can have so many conversations about insurance company. Let's just say that it would behoove the insurance company to cover something like this because um, what they could save if you just, I looked up in preparation for this podcast interview, I looked up and I saw the cost, for example, of what is the cost of care if a woman has preeclampsia. And I was blown away. It was like between 8,000 to 200,000, depending on if it causes her baby to be born earlier. There's a lot of cost associated with premature newborns, right? The NICU and all that sort of stuff. But even if it's just impacting her during her pregnancy, we're talking about an extra 8,000 worth of cost. So if we have a woman who already has a predisposition for this, right? And we find out either before she gets pregnant or maybe in her first trimester, like you have a good chance of having an issue with this. Let's address this right now.
Yeah.
How much money have we just saved that insurance company that has to pay all these costs for hospitalizations and medications and doctor visits? And what about the cost to her?
Hmm.
The concern, the worry, the time away from work, the stress on her relationship, right? I mean, just to me, the cost $500 to do that's my program. And I do have a special discount for your listeners, by the way, but the cost of my Grow Baby program is 500. It includes the test. And yeah, so I created a little bonus for your listeners for being here and learning about this.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'll include that in that information in the show notes to make it easy for everyone to just go straight to that. Awesome. And you answered this a little bit, but I guess I just want it clearly stated for those listeners who skip around. Why would somebody want to do this test?
Yes. Well, perfect. First of all, peace of mind, right? They say that's priceless. Knowing what you have going on with the expression of your genes and knowing that you can change how they're expressed changes not only the trajectory of your fertility journey, your pregnancy journey, the birth, your postpartum period, and your precious baby, right? You finally get a baby, you want them to be as healthy as you can. So the person who wants to do this test has just a deep commitment to their future child's health. They just want to create a great foundation for their health. And yes, they also want to have a fabulous pregnancy and birth, right?
Yes. Awesome. All good reasons why someone would want to do this.
For
And
sure.
what would surprise people the most about this test?
I think what would surprise them is really that how easy it is to do, how actionable the results are. There's some tests we do, and just the other think about the other genetics tests, right? Like, oh, you're a carrier, uh you shouldn't mate with another carrier, right? But beyond that, there's not much you can do. With this test, every single thing is actionable and it's empowering.
Yes, I like that. The actionable part because it's so true that there are some tests that we do and the big question is now what?
Yeah,
Now what does this mean number 1 and what do I do with it? And sometimes
exactly.
sometimes there is no good answer and sometimes it's well that's what we got to figure out together. And that is not the answer you want to hear. You don't want to hear well I'm not sure or it's good just to know no, we need to know. We're doing testing to explain some of the why, but we don't just want to know the why. We want to know what do we do next?
Right. We want to be able to take an action to change the trajectory
Yes.
of our whole journey. And I think probably you're right. That's what I love the most about this.
Yes. And of those 11 things that you shared, I'm not sure if you know this, but what are some of the most common things that you see with people?
Yeah, I think the most common ones that I see is that most people don't realize that they need a much more expanded amount of B vitamins. Uh, that that they're more prone to stress than they thought they were. Like I don't, some people say I don't know why it's like just a little bit of stress and it just I get bent out of shape. Whereas my friend, can has like tons more stress and just stays cool as a clam, right? Cool as a
Yeah.
clam.
Would that be
And
in the would that be in the methylation category or would that be in the inflammation category?
that's one of the ones in the methylation category. That's COMT. Also, it gives you a sense of like, well, how much caffeine can I take? Right? How much caffeine how does my
Interesting.
body process it? And I actually now I'm thinking about it. Is that on Grow Baby? Because I did all of this company's genetics test on myself because I wanted to see, because I've always said, oh, I can process caffeine really well. So that's good to know. And I don't get the jitters. But actually I found out for myself that my comp gene is sluggish. So technically I shouldn't be drinking so much coffee. Um, because of the way I process it, right?
Yeah.
What are some other things that people have found out? Insulin sensitivity. That's a really, really important one because that's one of the factors that can lead to what we really have an epidemic in today, uh, all over the world, not just in the US, is babies that are large for gestational age because mom's insulin sensitivity was poor. Maybe she developed gestational diabetes during her pregnancy. She didn't even know. Nobody's ever bothered to test her fasting insulin. But even if they did, well, why? Well, there could be some genetic variants that have her not process. So, like maybe you can eat a whole piece of cake, a whole cake, right? Whereas I eat a little tiny piece, and my genetics are just not optimized for dealing with sugar. Now, can we improve that? Yes, to a certain degree, but we also don't want to be like, okay, great, now you can go have a whole cake, right?
And I like that you shared that because you made me think that there is another reason, or one of the biggest reasons why someone would want to do this test is because it answers a lot of the why questions. Like
Yeah.
you just said, why can't I have this and somebody else can?
Yes.
Or why does this cause me jittery net? Like why am I jittery with this? Why can't I have caffeine? I see other women who can have caffeine, but
Right.
I have 4 ounces and I lose it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
It
and
does.
good.
It does answer a lot of those why questions.
Yeah, and a
And
lot of times we don't need the why questions, but it's helpful to know because then when you know that, you know it's not something that you're making up, or it's not something that's in your head, or it's not
mhm,
something that is completely like the outcome is completely out of your control. If you know that that's part of your gene expression where you just can't handle that much caffeine, it makes it easier to say, "No, I don't want that." Because
yes.
you know deep down at a deep level, your body is saying no.
Yes. Yes. I know. I keep having to remind myself that I do have the genes for lactose intolerance. And so every time I think I want to have a bunch of dairy products, I keep reminding myself, okay, hold on. Let's be gentle. You can do a little bit and I can do a little bit, but let's not go overboard because there are genetics, right?
Yeah. And aside from the vitamin B, like you said, vitamin B, and people are more stressed than they typically think they are there any other recommendations that you find yourself saying often to people? Like, you need to do this.
Yes. I would say maybe not you need to do this, but maybe you need to avoid exposure to toxins, whether it be mold or cigarette smoke. One of the categories, this was really fascinating, I thought, what they found in the nicotinic receptors, right? That, and I hope I get this right because I'm going off my memory with this, is that these women who were exposed to nicotine smoke, either they smoked or they were around other people who smoked, and they had a particular variant, that their children were much more prone to violent and criminal behavior.
Wow.
And it was like, whoa, what? So these kind of things, I think if a woman knows, like, wow, I'm more prone to have children who have issues with this, I need to stay away from these toxins,
Mhm.
as far as possible. Avoid them to me, at any cost, right? Or mold is another example. If you don't detoxify mold well, if because of your detoxification process, I'm not talking about like there are genes where some people just their immune system doesn't recognize the mold, right? But this is just based on detoxification of any kind of toxin. If you're not doing it, you need to make sure you don't have mold, not in your car, not in your house, not in your work. Like, just you just gotta have some bubble wrap around you to a certain to a certain degree, but really avoiding those toxins as much as possible, avoiding plastics, right? As if your body can't do that as well. Let's not do that.
Yes, and so those are really good. Those are things that everybody should be doing. not just for fertility. We should be avoiding all of these things for our healthy bodies.
100%.
Yes.
I always tell my couples, I say, listen, I'm not God. I can't promise you that you're going to have a baby. However, I can promise you that in the process of preparing your body to have a baby, you will get healthier. That I can promise. If you take those actions, you will be.
Yes. Awesome. Awesome. And as we come to a close, I just want to see if you have any final thoughts that you wanted to share with the listeners.
Final thoughts. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to you for taking on this topic. I love talking about this, about using genetic testing. I love helping couples to remove the confusion, the despair, and give them actionable steps that they can take to achieve their dream, right? I remember what it's like to be there. It's been my journey has been complete for about 8 years, but it's so fresh sometimes, it's just under the surface. I remember what it's like to be in that 2 week waiting period, to have miscarriages, to not get pregnant. I mean, I've been there. I want to really share with people. I don't want to tell you not to give up hope, because sometimes if you just rely on hope, you may not take the actions. There's a lot of actions you can take. Don't ever let anybody tell you you have um, unexplained infertility. I think that's my main message. Work with somebody who can explain what those barriers are.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. I love that part where you say, take action. You can always take action. There's something else there. And for those who have listened to this episode and they say, I love it, I'm interested, how can they work with you? How can they get in touch with you or learn more about you?
Sure. My website is Dr. Carmel. It's DOCTOR, Carmel, CARMEL, and .com. And I have a number of ways that people can work with me. It's on the website. There's a few programs. Everything starts with an initial consultation just to see if we're a good fit. I also offer, if people want to just hop on a quick 15-minute call with me and, just run a few quick things by me to see if it's a good fit for them, I'm happy to do that. It's something will pop up. I don't like pop-ups myself, but my web designer's like, you really need to have it there. There is a pop-up and you can fill out the thing and we can get on the phone and chat and see if it's a good fit. See, I feel like you're somebody that I could help, and you can see if I'm somebody you want to work with. And yeah, I would love, look, my mission is to help as many people have the healthy child that they've been dreaming of, and avoid timing out on their fertility journey like I did. That's my passion. So it's my privilege to help anybody who would like to achieve that. So one of the things, to thank you for hosting me, I created something for you and for your listeners. I created a guide. It's called Unlock Your Fertility Potential, the Genetic Key. And it's really a guide that goes over what we talked about today, like what Grow Baby is, who would want to use it, what are the biological areas. And as a bonus, I created the top 5 questions that somebody would want to ask their doctor about genetic testing when they go to their doctor, and why you would want to ask that. In addition, another bonus that I created for your listeners is that any of your listeners who then want to sign up for the Grow Baby program, I'm offering a 10% discount, and I'm going to tell you now what the discount code is. It's Empowered.
Yay! Because that's what we are.
That's it, because that's what we are, and that's what we're about as healthcare professionals, about empowering people. So, yeah. Fantastic. So that's I'll make sure I get that to you.
Awesome. Thank you again so much. I've learned a lot about this type of testing, and I took notes so that I could look into some of the things that you said in more detail. So I'm really excited about. So I just want to say thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you so much, listeners. I hope you have learned something. If you have any questions or thoughts about this episode, put it in the comment section. And I'm excited. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Empowered Fertility Podcast. If you're looking for personalized support on your journey, whether that's through therapy or coaching, please reach out. Just complete the contact form linked in the show notes, and someone from my team will be in touch with next steps. Remember, you are not alone. You are not broken, and your story is not over. See you in the next episode.